So, this first game is against Lucille's purple Kaiser deck. He starts off first and he drops Impmon and goes into Vilemon. As for me, I'm going to start building up my chain because I actually started out with um, pretty much everything I needed to get to Rosemon. So I go ahead, even though I didn't have my ideal level 4, I just used the Woodmon. Um, so it passes to him, and he drops a second Impmon. That's two of his four Impmons already. One of them, is under the Vilemon. And so I just get my Rosemon. I don't really care if he attacks with the Impmon. I just don't want to get hit with, Trump Sword. So I have to stay in there until I'm ready to start attacking. He puts down a third Impmon. And then I think he's going to go into a Devimon here. Yeah, there it goes. So that's three of his Impmons already. Two of them are in evolution sources. He's swinging with this one, and this one I really loved. Hits the Terrors cluster, gets bottom decked. He doesn't even get to get the Mill 3 off. I really like Terra's cluster at 4 because of how often you see it in the security. It's really nice. And honestly, like, it puts in a lot of work in this game, which you'll see. And so he's sort of now left in a pickle. He just drops a second Vilemon, establishing, good blockers on the board, so I can't just like flower cannon him and swing into security. So then I contemplate swinging into security. I'm expecting him to block me because he's got two blockers. But I still probably should have swung first rather than what I do here, which I drop a Goblimon and evolve it into a Woodmon, so that I've got some protection for my Rosemon. But by doing that, if he had chose to let me attack into security, and if there had been a Trump Sword there, that would have killed my Woodmon. So I should have really swung first. I didn't have anything to gain. I did, get plus 1,000 from Tanamon for evolving, but I was already at 12,000 from Agumon, and in purple, other than Boltmon and Millenniummon, nothing would have actually been a threat to me. And I know that he doesn't play Boltmon, and really no one plays Boltmon anyway, so 12 was a good enough number. So just something to consider when you're playing against purple. Maybe attack into security before you start playing your Digimon. But anyway, so he goes ahead and swings in with the Devimon, of course, because he's trying to get rid of my blocker or seeing if I'm going to not block. Either way, though, I do block because the whole point of running so many blockers is to make sure that my Rosemons stay safe and make it hard for him to, rush me down with his other stuff. So it sort of puts him in a bind. He doesn't have a lot. He doesn't have a lot in his hand, so he just goes ahead and hard casts a Beelzemon. Which I don't really mind too much because, again, this deck does not care about big stuff like that. Because of the fact that this version of green, one, it's got Flower Cannon to so that I can then swing over stuff, but then also, I've got Terra's Cluster, with Flower Cannon or Terra's Cluster with Lilymon. So I don't care a lot about the big stuff. I do want to clear it before he has a chance to drop Millenniummon. And so I swing into security so I can suspend his Beelzemon, because I do have the Terra's Cluster in hand, and so I really want to get that ready to resolve that. And there's the Trump Sword, so if he had let that first attack through, it totally would have killed my Woodmon and would have left me open to his Devimon, so it was a big misplay on my part. But yeah, so because it wasn't there, because nothing else was there, I didn't lose anything for it. And then I go ahead and hit the Terra's Cluster, taking out, you know, for the first, it's the first Mega of the game I take out, but it won't be the last. And so then here I don't necessarily have a bunch of great plays, so I decide to go with something a little aggressive, I think. I have to think if it's what I really want to do, but just based on the fact that I don't have a rookie in hand, and I think that like all of my hard casts weren't going to be that great anyway, so I just went with the Puppetmon to lock down the Vilemon so I can swing into that the next turn. Leaves me open to a Trump Sword in retaliation, but you know, what are you gonna do? And he hits it. If he didn't have it, that Puppetmon would have given me just so much value. So I do feel like it was a good play, and it is gonna make sure that I have an easy way to deal with Vilemon. So I like I said, I don't mind too much. So my turn comes back, and I'm going to swing into the Vilemon. I didn't. Lilymon should have also suspended the Tapermon, but it didn't really matter because I wasn't planning to do anything else. It wasn't even like in my mind. I knew I was just gonna drop the Cherrymon and pass so that my Rosemon would be safe from Devimon. And so he brings it out, and again he swings, and I block. And that's why I really like having so many blockers, because like even against purple and it's you know, all the retaliation it has, you just have so many ways to answer Devimons and make sure your Rosemon stays on board. So it's actually a really good counter against purple in that regard. So Lucille's thinking about what he can do here. He's already gone through 2 Trump Swords. And I think that he's gonna play a Piedmon. Oh, right, no, first he's gonna dig. That's right. So he's digging because he just really doesn't have anything. Luckily for me, he doesn't have a Devimon that would have put me in a bad position. But he does apparently draw into one. Because he drops a Demi-Devimon, goes into a Devimon. And then, let's see. Oh yeah, this is when he just didn't have anything else that he could play at this point, so he just passed. So my turn comes around, and I really don't want that Devimon there, but at the moment there's not a whole lot I can do. So I drop a Kabuterimon and a Cherrymon. Then I swing into the security, suspend him, hit a Piedmon, I'm fine. And then right here, I'm actually going to swing into the Devimon with Cherrymon as a sort of offensive way to make sure that he can't do anything with that Devimon that I don't want him to do. Even knowing that I have the Cherrymon on board, it's just I feel the better way to get rid of it right now. That way he can't, like, drop a Demi-Devimon and a Chimeramon and kill the Cherrymon and keep his Devimon. But I do sort of struggle with that decision because it's a big, commitment of resources that I'm throwing away. And I think the reason that I went with this, even went with the idea of attacking with Cherrymon rather than having done the Kabuterimon is because, like, my hand wasn't great and I needed to dig for some stuff. So I just decided to make that sacrifice for the filter. So he comes up with a completely clear board, no evolution for me to worry about, and he drops Piedmon. Figured he was going to get the standard Vilemon and Devimon, but then he actually surprises me because he rethinks his decision on the Vilemon, and he picks up a Tapermon. I'm assuming that he really wanted to draw at this point, and that's what he was thinking with that. I hatch and go into Kabuterimon and go into Lilymon, and this time I actually I'm gonna deal with another one of his megas with a Terror's Cluster, I believe. So I swing into the security. And again, probably could have played around the Trump Sword in the security a little better. But I think I was feeling a little confident since he already had 2 in there. So I dropped the Terror's Cluster, tuck the Piedmon, and then I know that my Rosemon's going to die to that Devimon. There's absolutely nothing I can do about that with the current hand that I have. So I just go ahead and drop another Rosemon here, hoping that he doesn't have a Trump Sword, in hand. I take a moment to contemplate it, but I do it. Because I was looking for an out for the Devimon, but I didn't have it. Didn't have any sort of blocker. So he does, exactly what I expected him to do. Kill one of my Rosemons, but I still have the backup. Then he swings into security, trying to get that, draw, which he gets. Then he evolves he finally gets his rookie, and he drops a second Piedmon. And I think this time he does go for the classic combo of Vilemon and Devimon. Yep. Which again, I'm not too worried about right here because I've got him down to 2 security, and I've got, even though he has a bigger board, I've got a lot of answers in my hand, which you will see. So this time, it's actually not a misplay to bring the Digimon out with Rosemon before swinging into security, or trying to swing into security, because if Rosemon were to die, then I wouldn't be able to activate Mimi. And I'd rather have the Digimon on the board. So I Flower Cannon the blocker so that I can actually get into security. And that's because I'm setting something up here, and it might be pretty obvious to you what that is. And so I also use the effect of Lilymon to suspend the Piedmon, hit a Kaiser nail, which fizzles. Swing into security again to get him to 0, and no Trump Sword. Not that that would have mattered here anyway. And then I drop a Puppetmon to completely, lock down his board. Almost assuring that I'll have game on the next turn unless he can do something just really crazy here. And I don't think it's actually going to be too crazy. He's gonna probably swing into security with the Tapermon. Oh, and actually, he's again digging, so he evolves to Wizardmon, then swings with the Wizardmon. So it's still gonna be only a draw of 1, but he did get that extra draw from evolving. And he also mills one for the effect of Pagumon. And so then that's going to give him the Night Raid, I believe, to get back one of those Impmons I talked about him losing early on. Yep, there's the Impmon. And at 3 memory, there's really nothing he can do here to get out of this situation. So he just opts to go into a Beelzemon and kill my Kabuterimon. And that's going to be the game. My turn comes up. I just swing in with Rosemon for game. And so in my hand I did have another Puppetmon, another Rosemon, blocker, and a Flower Cannon. Well, he had Beelzemon and Millenniumon from early on in his opening hand, I think. But there's just never a good time for him to use the Millenniumon. He might not have had it since the opening. I think he did, but I'm not 100% sure. And so, yeah, I think that was a really good game to show that this deck can really play through Megas. It doesn't care that much because, between the Terra's clusters and the ability to suspend and then swing over stuff with Rosemon, it's not a big deal. And Rosemon is actually really well protected in this deck because I built it with so many blockers to make sure to keep her around. So she can do a lot of damage to the opponent's Megas with very little recourse from them. And I think that actually the fact that I kept taking out his Megas might have been the reason that he never got to drop Millenniumon, because I don't think he ever started a turn with a Mega still on board. And that was definitely intentional on my part. But yeah, so good game overall, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, and so this game I'm going up against Lucille's Rookie Rush deck. I'm going first, which is good for me because it gives me the opportunity to try to establish a blocker, which you really want to try to do against Rookie Rush, and you also want to deny them that first turn so that they cannot get that first attack in. So like I say, I go into the Woodmon and just pass the turn to him. He goes into Elecmon, and tries to consider the most efficient way for him to build his board while denying me memory here. So he thinks on it for a bit. And he's gonna go into an Armadillomon to put himself to 0, and then spark up to 1, and finish off with a Mushroomon, so that I only get 1 memory on my turn, and he's got, a couple of relatively big rookies. So bring out the Woodmon. And I don't have a lot of great moves in my hand, so as much as it pains me to do this early on against Rookie Rush, I go ahead and just drop Puppetmon, suspending the Mushroomon, because I'm trying to get that off the board so he doesn't have the option to Flower Cannon whenever he wants. So he brings out the Elecmon, starts swinging at security. I kind of wanted to let this one through just so that I could block the Elecmon and kill the Upamon, but I decided that it was better to play it safe and kill the Digimon that had the higher DP, just in case I had a weak rookie in there. And then he does swing and gets killed anyway against the Lilymon, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And it did seem, honestly, better that way in case he chose not to swing. That way he would lose at least one Digimon there. Because if I had blocked, if I hadn't blocked and it hadn't killed him, then he could have just ended his turn and had a bigger board. So he drops the Gabumon to draw, and then I think that this is where, yep, he drops his own Puppetmon, walking down my board. Turnabout is fair play, as they say. So, comes to me. I'm going to have to draw for turn. Hatch. I think I'm trying to decide what rookie to play, if I even have a rookie. I might not have a rookie here. Yeah, I don't have a rookie, so I just hit him back with Puppetmon to lock his board down in return. So he can still attack with that Gabumon, but that's the least of my fears. He goes into a Gomamon. He swings in because he might as well get that chip damage. Rosemon kills him. And I think that let's see. Yeah, okay, he drops an Elecmon and a Goblimon and an Elecmon and an Elecmon. Yeah, so he's you can see he's really trying to go for lethal here. He's got 7 Digimon. He's gonna have 7 attacks next turn, and I've only got 3 memory. Of course, I'm gonna try to kill as much as I can, but as it stands, I can only kill 2, which would still leave him with 5, which is ample, even with my blocker, to finish the game. Unless I have a Flower Cannon insecurity. So, right here, I do have a plan sort of forming in my head, but I don't like it because I really want to keep my Woodmon so that I do not, so that I have a blocker, because I don't want to run out of blockers against Rookie Rush. But I decided to start off by just clearing his board a little bit, so I attack into the Mushroom Mon, put myself to 2, and then, as much as I hate to do it, I know that I have to attack his Puppet Mon, because I need to get rid of every body I possibly can. So after agonizing over it for a bit, and seeing if I have another way out, I decide to just swing Puppet Mon to Puppet Mon. And like I said, you can see I really had to think about it. But I did it, put me to 3. And then here's my answer. I decide to evolve the Woodmon into a Lilymon. Evolve the Lilymon, swing with the Lilymon, really hoping I don't hit a Puppetmon and get killed here, because that would cost me the whole game. And I don't. But having that Lilymon suspended means I can then go into Rosemon. And now he does not have lethal on the board, because he can only swing at most 3 times. And this is actually a really, nice play that you can make against Rookie Rush with this deck. And I really enjoy the play. And you'll see that the results are pretty good. So he goes into Leomon, so he can has a better chance of surviving this attack. Swings, and I get to suspend something, so I suspend the Goblimon. So then I take the damage. It's a Togemon, 5,000 to his 5,000 on the Leomon, so it is dead. He tries to kill the Goblimon for some reason. I'm like, no, it's the Leomon, man. And it's like, oh yeah. So then he kills the Leomon and goes up to 2. He had a real hard time picking those cards up. And he swings into my security again. And also it suspends the Elecmon because of Rosemon's effect. And he hits a Puppetmon. The Elecmon dies. He still has 1 Digimon left. And he seems to think about whether or not he wants to swing with it or not. Because he could not do that. And then he has a Digimon up for next turn. Because if he swings, it'll probably die. But it also means that I'm just 1 hit from lethal. So he decides to swing. And unfortunately for me, it's a Flower Cannon, which would have been great to see like 2 attacks ago. And so then he just drops a Puppetmon to try to freeze my board. And now pretty much unless I have a Puppetmon, then I'm going to lose this game. So I try to think about how I want to play this, because the thing is, I do have a Puppetmon. And I just don't know if I want to give him... I know I'm going to give him the memory with the Puppetmon, but first I'm trying to decide if I want to play a Mimi, because Mimi would be really nice to have in the coming turns, so I can, get my eggs coming out. And also so I can have a guaranteed 3 memory every turn, which is nice against Rookie Rush, especially because they don't have a lot of ways to use that memory without making really big plays, which uses too much memory and gives me even more to work with. But I just decided the Mimi's worth too much for me, so I dropped the Puppetmon to freeze his entire board and hope that he does not have the Puppetmon in response, because that would be really tragic. So he's gonna hatch. And then he's just gonna pass turn, because he does not have the Puppetmon in response. I think he actually just has 2 Hammer Sparks right now. So I go into the Agumon, and then I'm going to proceed to try to clear his board. So I tried to decide, how to sequence this, if it's really going to matter, and it's not. So I go ahead and use the Mimi, bring out the Agumon, and then I'm going to evolve the Agumon, try to decide what I want to evolve into, but I ultimately decide that it's probably best to go with Togemon so I can look at some upcoming cards and see if I can get a good ultimate to evolve into. So I draw first, and then top three, I take the Cherrymon, Flower Cannon, Terra's Cluster go to the bottom, but I'm not really looking for Terra's Cluster right now anyway, so not too big of a deal. Go ahead and swing into that Puppetmon, get it out of here. Swing into the Goblymon so he doesn't have the Elecmon, and then the Goblymon so he doesn't have the chance to use Flower Cannon. I go up to 3 as well because I swung with those 2 Puppetmons, and then I finish off the last of his Digimon with Togemon. So again, now I know that there's no way for him to get lethal next turn. And so I'm also going to go ahead and evolve that Togemon into a Cherrymon, just so I can have, just so I can draw a little more. So I go ahead and do that. And I draw. And then I decide that what I'm going to do is try to set up lethal right here. Because right now I just need one more Digimon for lethal. So I go ahead and drop the Woodmon, which I believe I just drew. So there's not much left that he can do here. He drops the Mushroomon and passes turn. So I unsuspend. And again, I'm trying to make sure I sequence right here so I don't potentially cost myself the game from a stupid misplay. And then I almost make a stupid misplay in a second anyway. I evolve, and then I decide to bring Kabuterimon out with Mimi, but I realize, wait a minute, if I do that and he has a Flower Cannon in there, Kabuterimon's going to get suspended, so it makes sense to save that for after I've already swung in with my other stuff. So I swing in with the Puppetmon, get some memory. No Flower Cannon. So things are looking good. Swing in with Puppetmon. And no Flower Cannon. And I think at this point it's actually already game because I think I have, it's not going to matter what's here. Yeah, so then no Flower Cannon. Again, doesn't matter anymore. Swing in with the Cherrymon. And then swing for game with the Woodmon. So, yeah, it doesn't even matter that I get the 2 memory here. And so I'm gonna show him what my hand is right here, because it's actually kind of nuts. Again, I got the Terra's Cluster. It's not a huge deal, but could still do some stuff. I got plenty of blockers in case I need them. And I've got a Flower Cannon in case I need to use that to help take anything out. And he's got 2 hammer sparks, which he was mentioning he keeps seeing them in his hand instead of in security, which is not where you want to see hammer spark when you're playing Rookie Rush a lot of the time, because you like being able to steal turns from your opponent. Overall, I thought that this deck had a really great matchup against Rookie Rush, just because, like I said, this particular build has a lot of blockers, so it's able to help slow that down. It's got 4 puppet mons, so those can help lock down the opponent's board after they've tried to go all out on you, or if they hit a flower cannon in the security. You got Rosemon, which can really help if they have a big board. It can help to slow them down so that they can't finish you off. And you have Terra's Cluster, which in another game I played against him, I did end up using that a couple of times. Or it procced from the security, which was pretty nice too. So there are a lot of things in this deck that make it a really good matchup against Rookie Rush. And as you saw, it was also a pretty good matchup against Purple, which are 2 of the biggest decks in the meta outside of the Omnimon decks, of course, the Blue Omni and Red Omni, or even Gallant. I don't think that this deck fares quite as well against those decks, unfortunately. And the meta is pretty much over now anyway, because 1.5 is coming out. But I do think that in the 1.0 meta, this is actually a pretty decent rogue deck against non-Omnimon decks. I really like the way it plays. I think that it's got a surprising amount of removal and control. And it can also be surprisingly aggressive. So if you are, playing the 1.0 meta at all, and you want to see Rosemon finally get her due, then definitely check out this build, and I think you're gonna like it. So, with all that being said, thanks for watching. Do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our Discord. Our giveaway is this Friday, which is March 12th if you're watching this, March 12th, 2021, if you're watching this, in the far future, which, thanks, but 1.0 meta's been gone for a long time, so I'm not sure why. But, yeah, no, that being said, again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.